we're live. Welcome to the Raw Food Health Empowerment Show. Today, we are talking about 5 worst foods you didn't know were fueling your joint pain and the easy fixes that will have you feeling younger. I'm Samantha Salmon, certified integrative nutrition coach and brain health licensed trainer, alongside with my mom, Dorrell Hylton Salmon. Welcome, Mom.
Hello.
So let's start off with the number one food. So first, let me explain a little bit about the joint pain that we need to understand. The reason why joint pain even exists is due to inflammation. Why are we having inflammation in the body? Due to inflammatory foods that cause that have bacteria that basically create endotoxins, right? Endotoxins in the body is really what's triggering the inflammation. The big one that I'm seeing that folks are consuming is meat, right? Meat, due to the fact that when you consume meat, in all animal products actually, these foods create a huge amount of advanced glycation end products. And the process of glycation is basically you have, like, when you cook food, right? I believe it's called the Maillard reaction. When you cook food and you're able to like brown it on the stove, it's called the Maillard reaction, where it's basically at high temperatures, the proteins and sugars like bind together, and the proteins kind of interlink, and that's what makes that browning of the food. Now, inside our body, right, we're 98.6 degrees. So when you eat these foods, you're having that experience inside your body where proteins are interlinking, right? You have this glycation process, and because the proteins and sugars are binding, you'll start to notice that your metabolic functioning is slowing down. This is what people, basically call the aging process. Oh, my back, my joints, I'm not able to walk as fast. My memory recall is off, right? All these things that we just ascribe to getting older because of aging is due to age's advanced glycation end products, right? So when you eat meat, right, dairy, eggs, including fish, processed foods, these foods, they have high amounts of advanced glycation end products, and this is what's slowing down your metabolic functioning, and it's causing inflammation in the body. So meat is number one. Now, if you're not eating meat, right, for those of us, I know we've had people on live with us in the past few sessions where they're like, I don't see myself eating a salad all the time. Ma, how have you been able to get off meat since you haven't eaten meat in quite a long time? I don't know how many years. I don't know if you've been tracking that. Have you been tracking that?
I don't keep count of it, but it's been a long time. And I never missed it. Because I find that when I used to eat chicken, I used to get a lot of mucus. And when I used a dairy product, like I used to love cheese, and cheese was the worst one.
Mm-hmm.
I used to get a lot of sinus infection. So I get some dangerous signs that will not let me even think about eating meat again. I mean, I don't miss it. But that's how I got off it, by turning my mind against it, stop eating it, and just stay focused on eating healthy, because that wasn't healthy for me.
Yeah. So I remember back in the day, growing up in the home, we used to have for breakfast turkey bacon, because I remember you felt like the turkey was healthier than the
pork.
Yeah.
Than the pork. Yeah.
So now that you're not eating that anymore, like what are you eating for breakfast? How have you been able to get meat out of your diet?
Oh, okay. Because I stopped the turkey bacon a long time ago. I left from turkey bacon to oatmeal for breakfast. And sometimes instead of oatmeal, I just have like a fruit bowl. And, because my fruit bowl consists of kiwi, ripe banana, strawberry, and blueberries.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I eat.
What
If I don't
about
have oat.
what about burgers? I don't remember you being into burgers back in the day.
No, I never used to eat burger. No. What happened though, since I stopped eating um chicken and all those stuff, when I start eating plant-based food, I would I usually go to the store and get burgers, like black bean burgers and all that. But after you give me the rundown of what these things, all these processed food, I don't buy them anymore. I
Mm,
try not to buy them anymore. They look tempting because they were delicious. But what I try to do, I try to make my own burger because they're not hard to make.
yeah,
So if I need a black bean burger, I just make a black bean burger. Yeah. But I made that change and I'm very happy about it because I don't go through the suffering what people go through with even this year especially. I don't have a lot of inflammation coming, mucus and all them stuff. I usually get it like during this time of year,
mm-hmm,
fall. Oh my goodness. I would have a tissue with me catching stuff.
yeah,
But I don't get. And then you get stuff goggling down your throat and all that
mucus,
phlegm and stuff. Yeah. No, I don't get it.
yeah. Yeah, so that's a great segue into the food number two, right? So food number one is meat, right? So that's how we have to get off of it. And you mentioned even with the black bean burgers, you have to look at the back to see what the ingredients are. Because number
Exactly.
two, I have listed here of what's triggering inflammation in the body is refined carbs. So refined carbs. Now, first, let's tackle the word carbs, okay? Because people are demonizing carbs, but all plant foods are carbs, but plant foods are your friend because they have fiber. Meat, dairy, eggs don't have fiber, and you need fiber for a healthy gut microbiome. This is making sure that you have a healthy digestive system and a healthy cognitive function, right? You cannot have a healthy brain without a healthy gut. You need fiber, right? And we want to diversify that fiber. That's how we feed, all the helpful gut bacteria. Now, refined carbs, though, these are your white breads, your pastries, your sugary treats, right? This stuff is no good. Even your chips, the palm oil, right? This is where I think a lot of vegans get messed up. You mentioned the black bean burger. A lot of these things have these cheap vegetable oils that are inflammatory to the body, right? They're not helpful in any way. And so we need to, if you don't want to have joint pain in the body, you want to get rid of this stuff, right? So for
Exactly.
you, mom, you're not doing the white bread. I know growing up you were against white bread, white rice, all of that kind of stuff. But what about pastries? I know during the pandemic you were making a lot of stuff from scratch, right? You were like
I was
Martha Stewart all the time with the
Yeah, I was
zucchini
baking.
breads and
I was baking, but the only thing that I do bake now, and I bake it because your dad likes it, is raisin oatmeal cookie, and I put walnuts in there.
which is
Right.
very brain healthy.
Yeah, that's well, yeah, because he will not eat walnut, but when I bake it in the cookie, he'll eat it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a tip for all the people who are, making food for other folks, their kids, their
Right.
spouses. Yes, walnuts are really healthy. Walnuts is actually a very great source of omega-3 fatty acids, which is anti-inflammatory and cognitive health promoting. So that's really awesome. And I love that you talked about, making it from scratch because honestly, it's not like you can't have pastries, but you have to make it from scratch to make sure it doesn't have all of the trash in there that causes inflammation.
And I don't use refined sugar in it.
Yes. So what are you using instead?
Okay, you're gonna be mad at me, but I use coconut sugar. And sometimes if I'm out of coconut sugar, I'll use a little maple syrup.
Mm.
But I don't make sweet cookies. I don't make them very sweet. I mean, because and we only have like one cookie a day. We don't go crazy over cookies because we only have a cookie after dinner with tea. So that's
Yeah.
the purpose of the cookie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
So
don't feel like I'm missing out on anything not going to the store and buying cookies. I couldn't tell the last time I pick up a pack of cookies. Could not tell. Yes.
yeah. So I have a couple questions for you, but first I want to say that if you are dealing with high insulin resistance, meaning you maybe your A1C is super high, you're diabetic, and you're trying to get that number down, or you have some kind of weight loss resistance, which is usually a sign of metabolic dysfunction, and it would behoove you to not use those sweeteners. I typically recommend for my clients to focus on fruit only if you need a sweetener, and that's where I find like raw vegan desserts really come, are very helpful and come into play. Yes, in some of these desserts you're using dates, which obviously if you have high insulin resistance, even the dried fruit is a little bit too much. But you can rehydrate these foods and still use them, or just lean in on the raw vegan desserts that just use actual whole fresh fruit to keep all the water intact, right? That kind of mitigates some of the sugar and your blood sugar responses until you can get your insulin levels your blood sugar levels under control.
Right.
Now, if you don't have any of those issues, right, then what you're using, the maple syrup and coconut sugar, when it comes to brain health, I like to go with sugars that don't have a glycemic spike in the brain. So maple syrup isn't necessarily it, right? So I recommend date syrup or granulated date sugar, or even yakin syrup. Yakin syrup is supposed to be really great for folks who are diabetic. I just find that it's very inaccessible. Like it's hard to find, but yes, for maintaining cognitive function, there are some little fine tuning and tweaks that we can make. Now, I wanted to ask you before we move on to food number 3 is making the time. So back when you were, running a salon, and working 5 days a week as a hairstylist, were you baking at that time? Like, how did you manage the time for?
I buy stuff no, absolutely no. I would buy stuff at the store, but even when I start eating right, the cookies and those things never really occurred to me. But being home, I do the things that I always wanted to do, and baking was one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the busy people, then, what would you recommend?
They can still bake cookies. It don't take much time, to be honest with you.
How much time is it taking you?
The preparation, it don't take much time. It's not like you have to beat egg or anything like that, because beating an egg is hard. It doesn't take much time. It take me maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah?
20
To make the
minutes
cookies?
wait, 20 minutes to put them together. And I'm saying 20 minutes because if let's say you do it, you're not rushing and do 20 minutes, okay? And it only take 14 or 15 minutes to bake them. That's all. 35 minutes and your cookies are ready.
There you have
See,
it.
because Sam, listen, when Daddy come down in the morning, he says, I can't believe you get up and bake cookies and the cookies are ready. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
But I get up. See, I could have baked cookies when I was working, to trust me, because I get up early. But I didn't have that mindset. I was more focused on getting to work.
Yeah.
The hardest part about it is when you finish those things and for you to do the washing of the stuff. That's the hardest part. But no, it only takes that short period of time.
Yeah. And the scary thing too now is like you mentioned going to the store and buying stuff, which honestly I don't even remember you buying cookies from the store. I just don't remember you being a cookie eater. But
yeah, I usually get them though. I usually like around holiday times. Yes.
Oh yes, the holiday with the red
I
dot
would pick them up at Costco.
in the middle.
The big can of Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But those things though, from my recollection, from my reading, is that they have trans fats because of the oils. There's high levels of omega-6, which are very inflammatory.
Right.
And I guess because of the processing, trans fat is naturally being created. It's not added trans fat; it's naturally being created in the processing of this stuff. The all the additives, ingredients, and then the cooking of it and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
Yeah.
obviously this is very dangerous to the cardiovascular system. And when you put that level of stress on the cardiovascular system, you are impacting negatively the brain and your cognitive function. All right. So food number 3, fried foods. Fried foods directly impact inflammation in the body. Like literally you could have the cleanest plant-based diet, but if you're still having oils, if you're still eating out at restaurants that obviously use oil, most restaurants use oil, you will have a trigger, especially if you have rheumatoid arthritis or any of these autoimmune issues. There's a flare-up from the oil. So Ma, I know you got an air fryer. How did you get into getting oil, like mitigating the amount? Because I know you're not oil free right now.
I'm not. No. Because I still use olive oil. Like when I make salads and stuff, I still put the olive oil in it. With the air fryer, you don't use oil. I don't put oil on nothing I put in the air fryer. Because
Yeah.
that's why it's called air fryer. I don't put no oil in it. Sometimes you see these videos and they tell you, oh, you must spray it with oil. I don't use oil. If I have to, the purpose of my air fryer is to avoid oil. Period.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, what do you fry anything? Like, or is there, what are you making in the air fryer right now?
I put things like if I'm making like potato wedges or stuff like that, yeah, or plantain, ripe plantain. Instead of fry it, you just put it in the air fryer because you don't
Yeah.
have to use oil and it come out just as nice.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, if somebody want to use oil, they have the olive oil spray, which you're not supposed to heat olive oil. But let's say you really need the oil, after you take it out the air fryer, you can spray a little oil on it, you know. But I
yeah.
don't find it necessary though, because I think it's just delicious, just like that.
Yeah. And you know, like when it comes to ways in which you prepare food, there's certain modalities or methods in preparing food where you get most of the nutrient value, and certain types of methods where it's actually creating more advanced glycation end products, right? Remember we talked about that, where proteins are interlinking and the proteins and sugars are sticking together, and so things slow down, you start to feel aches and pains, you start to feel older, right? Is because of that. So how do we cut down? So like you're already eating within the plant-based world, you're eating as clean as possible. When it comes to the methods, if you want to cut down on those advanced glycation end products, we want to keep water in the food. So like any water preparation, so that's steaming, boiling, that type of thing, as opposed to frying, baking, that type of thing, right? So like dry cooking, you have more advanced glycation end products, so like roasting, all that, versus when you keep water in the food prep, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. Also, with things like plantain, we've talked before on the show, like you can do raw plantain in the dehydrator,
To get
and
plantain chips.
to
Yeah.
get plantain chips. Yeah, it's a nice sweet treat. Or even boil it. I mean, Jamaicans do boil sweet plantain all the time, you know, and add it to like rice and beans and stuff like this. So there are ways to have the food without it triggering an inflammatory response.
Help me
Okay.
with that one again. You said they boil the sweet plantain, the ripe plantain?
Yes, I remember even down the street from you at,
They
what was
didn't
it,
boil it,
Country
you know.
Style.
They didn't boil it, they
Oh,
fry
they
it.
fry it. They fry
Yes,
it.
yeah.
So,
They
okay,
don't.
so thank you for that. Yes. It's so soft inside. It looks like a boil. So you can actually get the same texture. You would just not have oil.
You just don't fry it. You put it in the air fryer.
No, you wouldn't fry it. You wouldn't put it in the air fryer. You would boil it and get the same texture because
No, you cannot boil ripe plantain and get the same texture.
No?
No,
Cuz
no.
their thing looks boiled. I'm going to try it.
No, they
I'm going to
didn't boil. They didn't
They
boil. They
fried
deep
it.
fry it. They deep fry it in a lot of oil and take it out real quick.
Right. So
So
what
they actually
happens
boil it. They actually boil it in the
in
oil. You see,
oil?
like how the
Yeah.
Chinese do plantain,
Yeah.
but they
But
don't use a
they
little bit
fry
of
it
oil,
and it's dry and
and they use
crispy.
a strainer thing and grab it up out of it. So that's why it look like that. Yes.
Yeah. So but
It's
so what I'm saying though is the texture you end up with when you fry the way the Jamaican sweet plantain is fried. I say sweet, so ripe plantain I should say, right? I feel you can get the same texture boiling it and not using oil at all. You disagree. And I'm gonna this will be our
because
homework.
you cannot boil ripe plantain. You boil green plantain, not the ripe one.
I know what's been done before, but why is it against the rules? Like, what is it gonna disappear in the pot? Like, why are you
No, it's not. It's not gonna taste right. You cannot boil it. I'm
what do you
telling you
mean
how
it's
they
not
do
gonna
it.
taste right?
It's not gonna taste right.
Okay, well, we're
Once the
gonna try
plant,
it.
once the plantain is ripe, you don't boil it. You either deep fry it
And
or fry it.
I remember when I said I was gonna have it raw. I remember there were naysayers, and then I did it, and you liked it, so it's worth a try.
You have the plantain raw.
Well, we've already done that, right? So we know that's good and fine to have the plantain raw. Once it's
Yeah,
ripe,
you can.
obviously I
You
wouldn't
can.
recommend not having
You
it
you
right.
can eat it. You can eat it raw if it's ripe. Yes,
Yes. And so
but
the same ripe plantain, I'm saying boiling it is it's just like green banana, but it should be sweet. Okay.
no.
I'm
You
going to
boil.
try.
We boil green plantain, not ripe plantain.
I know you do.
Anytime.
But
Anytime the
I'm saying let's try something different is what I'm
Oh,
saying.
you said let's try, but I thought you said that Jamaicans that's how they do it, but that's not how
Yeah,
they do it.
my mistake. I said that the first time and you said it's fried, and yes, I remember. I understand. It's basically
Okay,
how,
right.
like at McDonald's, they make French fries. It gets dipped in the thing, right? But what I'm saying is like the texture, the outcome. I feel like I can get the same texture. Obviously, the flavor is going to be different because you have all this oil in there, which manipulates the flavor. But the texture,
It's
I
just the same.
feel, should be the same if it was boiled.
Why would you boil it if you have an air fryer though? Because that's what I'm saying. If you put
Because air fryers aren't the healthiest to consume. Yes, an air fryer is an option to be oil free, but air fried food isn't necessarily healthier than boiled food in terms of the nutrient level in the food.
what about putting it in the oven? Because that's another way to do the
Again,
plant.
when you keep water in the cooking
Oh, I got
mechanism,
you.
you have
So you
less advanced glycation end products, right?
so you could
When you
fry it.
have dry heat, you have more of the Maillard reaction of the proteins and sugars binding together and proteins being interlinked together. So you're creating more inflammation in the body and actually aging the cells of your body.
Okay, so that I understand. So that makes sense to me. So there is a way you could do your planting instead of boil it. You could use the water like you're frying it, but don't put too much water in there because when you put too much water in there, it's actually taking away the taste of the plantain. The water absorb all the sweetness from the plantain, so you don't use too much water.
So you've tried it before to boil.
I am going to try it now that you say it. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
because
try
you
it.
seem very convinced it's not going to work. And I feel like I should end up with the same texture, and probably not the same look. Because, like, for example, country style, right? The Jamaican restaurant that used to be by you. I don't know if they're still around. But when they fry the plantain, it's soft
Very
all the
soft.
way through, which you would
Very
get
soft.
from like boiling a sweet potato or something. It's gonna get soft all the way through, right? But there's a browning to it that happens, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. Even though that browning, it looks so good to us now, right? Because we look at that and we pair it with our memory of the taste of fat, sugar, like high levels of fat, sugar, and salt, right? Which has already
Right.
engaged the addiction centers of our brain. So this is where people like it's very hard to like pull off of that, right? But we
Right.
know that is not the healthiest thing, especially if you have aches and pains, joint pains and stuff, crippling rheumatoid arthritis. Like you don't want to have that. So instead, boil it. It may look pale, just like the when I dehydrated. So like the ripe plantain dehydrated, have it raw but dehydrated, it was pale looking, right? So it's probably going to look pale, but I feel like the texture of it should be very similar to the fried version that you would get at a Jamaican restaurant. But we're going to test it. I'm going to test it and you're going to test it.
And another thing, as you don't have to really fry or boil your ripe plantain. You can slice it up and have it raw, just like how you eat a banana, if the plantain is ripe.
Yeah.
So for
Keyword.
if the
It
plantain
has
is
to be
ripe.
ripe. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, I'm not a fan of eating unripe produce, to be honest.
Yeah.
It just doesn't taste good. And even like with fruit, even grapes and kiwi and stuff like that, having that stuff unripe, I find it's way more, I don't know if this is even the right term, but it feels very like more acidic even to my teeth. You know, I have more sensitivity. It's not a pleasurable experience. And my understanding is that you need the fruit and the produce to be at peak ripeness in order to get the nutrient levels, right? So when it's not yet ripe, you're not getting the biggest
Correct.
bang for your buck nutritionally. So it makes sense to just wait, you know, for this
Exactly.
thing.
Same thing with tomato and avocado. They have to be ripe. Yeah.
Shout out to the 4 people that are with us live. Thank you so much for joining us live. If you have any thoughts or opinions, we just had a heated debate on on whether or not it's okay by the Jamaican gods to boil ripe banana, but we're gonna do it, right? We
Not
have
ripe banana, ripe plantain.
plantain. I'm sorry, right? Plantain.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Because I mean, you have made tweaks already to Jamaican cuisine before, so I know you're not afraid to experiment
Oh no, I'll try anything.
and
if it
do
don't
things
taste
a
good,
little
I'll let you
different.
know.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you know what? Even that thing tastes good, doesn't taste good. I think ripe plantain, the mere fact that we could have it raw and it tastes good, I think boiled plantain is still gonna be good.
You know my nephew Danny, your cousin. He doesn't eat fried plantain or cooked plantain. He eat ripe plantain, just raw. It's ripe, so it's not really. I wouldn't say raw. It's fit. It's ready.
Yeah.
Right. That's how he eat it. He don't cook it or fry it.
He just eat it like a banana.
Just like that, like a banana. You can even take plantain and make smoothie if you want. You know.
Yeah. Nyla, thanks for joining us. Nyla says, yes, great information because I enjoyed plantains. And Leah says, never tried boiled plantain. I love them fried back in the day. My Jamaican friend said you can put it in a smoothie, but I'm scared. Same here. I wouldn't waste a plantain like that, but I guess you could. So moving on to number 4 of our 5 worst foods. If you're dealing with inflammation in the body and you're trying to get out of this, having these aches and pains, what do you want to avoid? You mentioned it earlier, Ma, but now we're looking at drinks, sugar-sweetened beverages, right? Sugary drinks. I am actually shocked by the amount of sugary drink consumption that Americans are still doing. Like, I kind of feel like, you know how people already got wise to cigarette smoking. I just figured people would be wise on the sugary drinks too, but apparently that's not the case. We still have a lot of folks downing soda, like lots of sodas and sweetened teas, a lot of sugar sweetened beverages, Starbucks, all the Starbucks stuff, all that stuff has a lot of sugar in it. And what's the problem with sugar? Basically, it's inflammatory, right? So you consume refined sugar, you have endotoxins being produced, advanced glycation end products, and nothing but aches and pains all over. Plus, you're making your blood vessels very brittle, and constricting blood flow to the brain. So it is really not helpful for cognitive function. Ma, you used to be into sugar, right? Like, so how did
Oh
you
man. Oh Lord, I used to love sugar.
how'd
I
you
used
get off of it? I mean, when because I remember you said you used to have a lot of coffee too. With the coffee that you used to have, did you used to put sugar in it?
Yes. Okay, how I got off sugar. I was talking to my sister in England one day and she told me that sugar is very bad for your bones. It actually rotten the bones, and that's all the word I need to hear. So I
Hmm.
stopped using sugar. I never put sugar in my coffee or my tea. And yes, I still drink a cup of coffee, but it's the decaffeinated. And it's not instant coffee because I don't know what's in the instant. I perk my coffee myself. Yeah.
Yeah, and you keep
And
sugar
and
out
you
of
know,
it.
so I think that's the only addiction I have to food, you know. You know, when some the only have a coffee addiction. I don't drink liquor, no form of liquor. I don't even drink wine no more. We used to have a glass of red wine every night. We don't do that no more. So no, we don't use alcohol in this house.
That's good. That's very good.
None. Oh, we haven't been in a long time.
Yeah, and so instead of doing the sugar, right? Like, how'd you get off sugar? Because I've heard people, that like getting off sugar is really tough for some people. They've, gone through lots of withdrawal and
Well,
it's
it
been a
wasn't.
huge
It
journey.
wasn't. It wasn't hard for me because the fact that my sister is a nurse. I mean, she doesn't work anymore, but she's a nurse. That's her profession. And when she told me that, that just tuck
So it
in
was
me,
the
and
words were enough.
that was it.
Yeah. Visualization I think is really helpful, which is why for me, like, I mean, I felt like I was pretty good with my diet before this, but I feel like this documentary in particular really stamped into me veganism, like, and it's Earthlings. The documentary Earthlings. I'm not sure if you ever saw it. I don't know if your heart could handle it, but it is like it was wow. Probably one of the best documentaries. I know What the Health really changed people's
Yeah.
viewpoint on stuff, but Earthlings, it was it for me. I was just like, man, this society is sick. Gosh, like, what are we doing? And and this book, Animal Factory by David Kirby, where he talks
Mhm.
about basically the genesis of mad cow disease. When you start to
Okay.
read and understand stuff like this, it's like, nah, I'm good. I don't really need feces in my food. I'm good with that. You know, and diseased animals, just our whole system. So I think having some kind of visualization for what you're trying to do is really helpful to propel you forward. Having your deep why, yes, but also having that more visceral experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, like, if I want something sweet, of course, fruit, and you could do
Fruit.
fruit
Oh yeah.
infused water, like put lemon in your water or some berries or something like that. Make a
And if you want something sweeter, just take a date and eat it, and
that's
just drink
super
some
sweet.
water.
Or yeah, or make a smoothie. I have some really nice raw vegan ice creams in my program. Um, you know, these types of things. I mean, I don't think I have want or need for sweet that I can't fulfill or satisfy
And I
with
don't
raw
like sweet
foods.
drink though. Like even when I tell you I make that juice today, it's more uh because I put lime in there. And I love the taste of lime, and it just tastes very nice. Just the lime, the celery, and the apple. And that's a nice drink. That's my soda.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In Poland, they have wodę gazowane. So that's the what do you call it? Carbonated water.
Mm-hmm.
So which if you don't have acid reflux, it's a great option. To add that to your drinks to kind of give it a
Right.
little bit of the fizziness. If you're interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Finally, on the list, number 5 of the 5 worst foods. If you're dealing with inflammation and chronic pain in the body, what you want to avoid is dairy products. Dairy, dairy, dairy. Dairy is super
Definitely.
inflammatory. And what's really interesting is that the USDA guidelines on nutrition they have some guidelines for America on how Americans are supposed to eat. And you would be shocked to know what they are. So what the government recommends that we eat is 5 servings of protein and grains, okay? 3 servings of dairy products, 2 servings of vegetables. So they're telling you basically have more dairy than vegetables, okay? And then 1.5 servings of fruit. Can you believe it?
Oh, they have it upside down.
Now, this is why it's just crazy. It's crazy to me the amount of reform we need, because when the USDA has these guidelines, right? Any institution that has taken federal dollars for any nutrition program, like public schools, like the prison system, they have to follow these guidelines. And in my humble opinion, according to the research, it actually makes no sense for folks to be mandated to have dairy, number one, because most of the population is allergic and doesn't even have the enzyme to digest it. So that's quite dangerous. And then secondly, there's no water. Like, you don't even have water as a mandate, but you're telling people to have dairy more so than vegetables. And we have high rates of hypertension, right? High rates of obesity, which all of this stuff is implicated in. Dairy products are implicated in metabolic dysfunction, hormone imbalance, you know? So it's like you have the government telling you to eat this stuff. You get sick. So now you go to the doctor. The doctor puts you on Wegovy or Zepbound or one of these drugs, right, to get the weight off. And you have to do that now for life. So now you are a lifelong customer of the medical system, of the pharmaceutical companies. Those pharma companies pay the campaigns of the politicians. The politicians get elected, and you don't see any change to our dietary guidelines. This is the system, the sick system that we live in right now.
Amen.
So what's the option that we have for ourselves? We just have to take agency. We have to know the information, and we have to do what we need to do to make the change for ourselves. We are living in a very toxic food environment, and apparently no one is really going to help us, right? We have to help ourselves.
Yes, sure.
So I know, Ma, you have a story with dairy products where you were having a lot of like
acid reflux
and like
and
allergies or something like this, asthma.
Terrible heartburn. Yeah, like if I drink water after eating chicken, it feel like some acid or something got into my stomach. Yeah. That's all terrible.
How'd you get off dairy? Was that hard for you? Because that seems to be really hard for a lot of people.
Okay. A sister of mine told me one day, because I love ice cream, and every time I eat ice cream, I get heartburn. And she said, "Have you ever stop and think that just leave the ice cream out your diet and see what will happen?" And you know me, Sam, I'm very obedient. I listen to anybody, you know.
Yeah. Is this an older sister or a younger sister?
Our baby sister.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
So is this a different sister from the sister who told you about sugar?
Yes.
Okay.
Because my baby sister now, she lives around me, so she know everything that those days, she was living here. And she would hear me complain when I eat ice cream. So every time I eat the ice cream, I actually bring it up sometimes. Yeah. It wouldn't settle and I would get heartburn, but I love ice cream. She said, "Have you ever stopped and think that if you leave it out your diet and see how you feel?" And I did, and I felt better. And now you can't get me look at the ice cream in the supermarket.
Yeah, and they have oil in it.
Eh?
There's oil in the ice cream, which is really shocking. Other than the fact they have all this sugar, but there's oil.
Even the vegan ice cream, if you go on the recipe to see how they make it, because I like butter pecan ice cream. If you see how they tell you how to make it, you never want to eat it.
Yeah.
So I said, no, I don't have to have it. I'll just eat the pecans.
Yeah. So what I do is I love pecans. First of all, I crush them up in my little mini food processor, and I have a ice cream maker. Thanks to you, Mom. I'll blend up my ingredients in the blender, pour it in the ice cream maker, and when it comes time for the toppings, I can top it with pecans, raisins. Sometimes I love, because back in the day I used to love the Jamaican ice cream, rum and raisin, right? So I always try to like kind of mimic that with healthy ingredients. So you don't need to have my ice creams don't have any fat in there, but I guess you could add, butters, some nut butters in there. But if you are dealing with metabolic dysfunction, weight loss resistance, inflammation in the body, you don't have to add the extra fat, even if it's unsaturated fat, right?
Right.
Or even the raisins and stuff. Like, you can keep it really simple and use just fruit, and service that need and that craving and not trigger inflammation in the body.
Well, the way I feel about it, to be honest with you, no food worth suffering. Trust me.
That
For me,
part.
no food worth suffering. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Leah says, I dropped dairy and I feel so much better. No attraction to go back. Very
That's
good.
Right.
Very good. Awesome. So Leah, Nyla, thank you so much for being active in the chat, and the rest of you for joining us live. I appreciate you. Hopefully this was helpful. If you know anybody dealing with any joint pain, definitely make sure to share this with them. And until next time, see you soon. Have a blessed day. Be safe. Bye. Practice self-care. It's even important now in this time, right? Rest, pray, deep breathing, meditate, do what you need to do. Connect with family, connect with loved ones. Check in on your friends. I did that today.
Stay
Practice
connected
self-care.
to God.
Yes. Alrighty. Take care.